Hello my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest movie review, where today I review Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. I saw this movie in 3D! Yeah, my local cinema re-released this movie, and this is the first time I've watched a film in 3D on the big screen for quite a while. I think the last time I saw a 3D film was potentially Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which was quite a few years ago now, at least 3 years ago. I want to give a shout out to Nick Payne, who I saw this film with. He's one of my dearest friends, and we saw the film together, and we had the screen to ourselves, which was lovely, so we were able to kind of watch the movie and sort of react to it at the time. Obviously we couldn't film that for legal reasons, but still, it was a great experience, so I want to thank him for joining me on that. So this movie was released in 1975 and was directed by Steven Spielberg. This is one of his earliest movies. I recently reviewed E.T. because that movie was also re-released. But this movie came first, and one of the movies that really put Spielberg on the map as a director. Even Alfred Hitchcock himself really liked Steven Spielberg and praised his talents. So, on with the review. When a killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Cape Cod, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down. So, Jaws. Interestingly, I actually have never seen this movie until now. I'd never seen the film until I saw it in the cinema today. And what a fantastic way to introduce myself to this film. Jaws is an incredible film. I can absolutely see why people love this film, and yes, I will talk about the sequels in due course. As for the first film, this is a really good film. It's interesting that this film kind of started the whole summer blockbuster trend, because ironically, I don't feel like this movie is as much of a blockbuster as some of the later films that it supposedly, preceded, if that makes sense. Like, it's not a huge, big-budget action film. I mean, there is action in this film. There are some moments of peril. But essentially, the film is a, suspense-filled drama. The story is incredibly basic, but it works because of the execution of the film. And fun fact, if you didn't know, when they were making this film, they had a couple of shark props, and apparently they kept breaking. So that actually encouraged Spielberg to change the whole direction of the first half of the movie. Obviously, they filmed with what they could towards the later scenes, but to begin with, they didn't show as much of the shark. Actually, that worked so much better, because it allowed the tension to build, it allowed the suspense to build, and you were able to feel on the edge of your seat. There were a couple of times I nearly jumped in my seat in the cinema, especially with the surround sound around me, which really helped. It is a fantastically directed film. It's really, spine-tingling stuff. You really are worried that this shark is going to kill everyone, and you are rooting for these human characters who are trying to fight for their lives and protect the people in this, village, this coastal village. The main characters, I think the three central characters, I would say, are Roy Scheider as Brody. He is the chief of police of the town, and he's under a lot of pressure to try and keep the situation under control. And there's a lot of time, especially in the first half of the movie, but mainly throughout the film, spent with the human characters and their relationships with each other, as well as them trying to deal with the situation and how they all react differently to the situation. What Spielberg does very cleverly is that he makes you care about these characters enough, and he gets you invested in the drama enough for you to feel worried when these characters are in peril, and that's to the credit of the filmmakers who beautifully crafted the script. And the script is incredibly thorough for something that's got a very basic narrative. It has all the drama and the tension that it needs to succeed, and because it's just executed so beautifully. As well as other cast, we've got Robert Shaw, who plays Quint. He is a sort of, he's a particularly mean person. He likes to hunt sea life, and he's hunted sharks before, and there's a moment where he talks about a previous encounter that he's had. Let's just say the character may or may not get his comeuppance, but he definitely has an interesting face-off with the shark that they try to encounter. The other character is Richard Dreyfuss as Hooper, and he is a marine biologist, and there is a particularly interesting scene where he performs an autopsy of another shark. They actually capture another shark, but it's not the right one, and you see him take all of the blood and guts out and everything. It's quite grim, but to their credit, the props, the shark props look incredibly realistic. You wouldn't tell that it's fake, you know, and again, that's why I love the way they directed this film, is because you don't see the shark too much. You see it just enough. You see it like swimming in the ocean. You see the top of its, you know, fin as it goes past, and you hear that music, and then you know something's coming. You do see clear shots and close-ups of it later on, and when you do see it, you are like, oh my god, wow. You feel the impact of it because you've had the build-up and you've had the suspense throughout, which makes the whole atmosphere scary. Especially the scenes at nighttime when they are trying to scour the ocean to find the great white shark that they're after. There's a few other human characters like Lorraine Gary as Ellen Brody, who's Brody's wife, and they also have some kids as well. And I like the character of Brody as well because he's someone he's actually quite afraid of the ocean. There's this irony that he lives near a beach, yet he hates the ocean. So I like the fact that so much of the story is about him overcoming his fears and facing up to the shark, and in the end it all comes down to him and the shark, and I like that. I thought that's good storytelling. And the second half of the movie veers off into a boat. The three main characters are placed together on a boat, and we get some good character moments with them, and we see them try to work as a team, even though they're very different to each other, but they do work together. And the climax, when they have to defeat the shark, is incredibly intense and really thrilling to watch, and it's worth the build-up. Some casual viewers may not like this movie because it's slow. It does take a while to build up, but it is worth it. If you haven't seen this film and you're worried about the slow pace, don't be. It's totally worth it, believe me. Whereas the first half of this movie is a grueling, intense, slow build up to that climax. But I like that, and it's mainly centered in the town and on the beach, and they're trying to, you know, deal with the pandemonium that's infecting the village, you know, because everybody wants to use the beach, but then they have to close the beach, and there's all that drama going on as well. And there's a surprising amount of heart in this film as well. There's a lovely moment where Brody is talking to his son because he's under the pressure of trying to control the situation, but he's feeling overwhelmed, and he says to his little boy, he's like, "Can you give me a kiss? Because I really need it." And I just love that moment where his son kisses him, and that's such a beautiful little moment. Again, it's moments like that that make this movie fantastic, because, again, this movie is one of the perfect examples of the phrase, less is more. You don't need an overly complicated narrative. You don't need, you know, an abundance of characters who have to do certain things for whatever reason. This is a simple, yet satisfying, brilliantly executed epic. And I have to say, the 3D actually is quite immersive for this film. It's one of the few films I would actually recommend seeing it in 3D. So if you get a chance, go to rewatch it in the cinema in 3D, because it's absolutely worth it. I can only imagine how it would have looked when it first came out. And obviously they've restored the quality to like 4K, so it's as clear as anything, which is brilliant. So I definitely encourage you to go and watch it. And also that music, the score by John Williams, wow. The music, it's some of the best music in film, some of the most iconic music in film ever composed. It's just so intense. The dun 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 dun. I mean, it's just spine-tingling. Every time you hear that, you know something's coming, and it immediately gets you in the mood, and you immediately go, oh gosh. Literally, like, in the cinema, during the climax when that was playing, I was literally, I perked myself up. I was on the edge of my seat, like, really glued to the screen. The music is part of what helps you immerse into the story. Do I have any criticisms? Not really, to be honest. I think it's a pretty flawless movie, and it executes itself perfectly well. It could be argued that the pace is a little slow at times, but again, for me, it's for positive effect, so I don't see that as too much of a criticism. But I know some people will probably not like this movie or think it's overrated because of the pace, but I encourage you just to be patient and stick with it, because the slow burn is only a means to an end. You know, a movie can be slow burning, but if it leads to something spectacular, then it's worth it, and believe me, this is spectacular. And it really defines the sort of summer blockbusters, which again is for me quite ironic. I don't really see this as a summer blockbuster. I suppose you could make the argument, well, it's set during a summer on a beach, but in terms of like the generic formula for a summer blockbuster, like a big all-action, bombastic, film, which again, this movie has action, but it's not all action. It's about the slow burn, and most summer blockbusters haven't really learned from this. If that makes sense. There are some that have, but not all of them. So I think this movie definitely serves as a fantastic landmark in cinema, and it needs to be appreciated more. So I'm definitely going to buy the Blu-ray, and I'm definitely going to recommend you to see this in 3D. It's great. So as a final rating, well, I'm absolutely going to give this film a 10 out of 10. It is a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out. I was missing out for years, but I'm glad I waited till this point so I could watch it on the big screen and have the full experience. Is the 3D necessary? Perhaps not, but for me it was great because I felt very immersed, especially for the underwater scenes. There's something about 3D that looks pretty good underwater, so that bodes well for the new Avatar film. Anyway, that's my review of Jaws. What do you think? Please comment down below, let me know. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content to come in the future. And leave your thoughts down below. And until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya. Bye for now.